Good evening, everybody. This is Hayden Institute of Education. I'm Dwayne. This is the Diploma of Alcohol and Other Drugs. And this week we are on CHCPRP002, Collaborate in a Professional Practice, second session of 2. So I'll just start with the acknowledgement of country. In the spirit of reconciliation, Hayden Institute of Education acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We recognise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the first inhabitants of this nation and the traditional custodians of the land on which we work, live, and study. We express our gratitude for the sharing of this land, our sorrow for the personal, spiritual, and cultural costs of that sharing, and hope we may move forward together in harmony and in the spirit of healing. We pay our respect to all First Nation people and acknowledge elders past, present, and emerging. Just the general expectations that we go through every week. We've started a little bit late. I'm just going to skip through that because you've seen it a million times. So tonight, looking through this, there's a few slides on copyright and intellectual property that Ian quite kindly described quite a lot of last week. So they are there, and I might go back to them if there's any time right at the end, just in case anybody doesn't understand. But you'll get this PowerPoint anyway, and you can research if you need to any copyright and intellectual property issues. So we're going to go straight onto AOD standards, work through privacy, confidentiality, and disclosure, then ethics, culture, and codes of ethics. So privacy, confidentiality, and disclosure. I think last week, wasn't it? Ian again mentioned privacy about something over potentially for me, and confidentiality is something that is a bit of a generalization, that if I'm keeping something confidential, it's possibly about other people. And if I'm keeping something private, it's quite often about me. It works. Talked a bit about that with a few different people this week. So that's, yeah. Potentially use Learner Guide and Google if you need to research that. And if it's wrong, then just come back and tell Ian, obviously. We're not doing that case study. So ethics. Ethics it runs parallel in all of our modules with legislation and legality. We've got legal expectations and we have to do certain things. But ethics runs alongside it. And I was talking to the Cert 4 last night, and I didn't really think about it before, but as like a few years ago, if I'm walking down the street and somebody falls and they have a heart attack and I'm running for my lunch, if somebody has a heart attack next to me, then if there's other people around, I could legitimately prioritize and say, I've got more important things to do. I'm not going to help this person because I have issues and I'm going to do this. Nobody is going to tell me that I have to help this person. If I see somebody threatening suicide in the middle of the street, I don't have to, there's nothing that says when I was working in JB Hi-Fi 20 years ago, if I find that out, there's nobody saying that I have to report that. It's not part of my job description. It's not part of who I am as a salesman, or anything like that. Or even child abuse or domestic violence in the middle of a shopping centre, I don't have to report it. If just by doing this course, the Cert 4 or the diploma, you have to get first aid. That is part of your qualification, so that comes into it. Then it changes it a little bit. You still don't legally have to help somebody that's having a first aid incident in the street. It's not law. If you're living in France, there's a good Samaritan law where if you've got first aid, you have to help somebody. legally to withhold your knowledge is a crime. And there's other countries like that, but Australia is not like that. So you don't have to. But then ethically, even without a first aid course, like should I be helping somebody? If I do have a first aid course, should I then help somebody if I've got the time, or even if I haven't got the time, should I prioritize that more? Then it's a very grey area. But then because of your job description and your place in the industry, suddenly you weren't meant to report certain things of abuse, child neglect, or somebody threatening suicide. Suddenly, that is part of who you are. Because of what your job is, this becomes part of your responsibility. So when legality and ethics go very, very hand in hand, go very close together, it produces a dilemma. That's the thing, the big ethical dilemma. With codes of ethics, then codes of practice. Codes of practice are quite often based on legislation. So this is how we do it. This is how we fill out forms. This is how we do an assessment for a client. But code of ethics says, well, while we're doing the codes of practice, it's not legislate do it like this, and keeping our boundaries and making sure that we're not crossing boundaries with the client and we're doing things professionally. Deciding on the right course of action, but that doesn't really mean a lot until you've got issues right in front of you and you know which course of action you've got. So we've got ethical issues from vulnerable groups, reducing discrimination, devaluation, informed consent, obtaining client consent when providing service and intervention. So we get consent originally to work with the client, they sign it, they've read the documentation, and then they sign it. But we also have to make sure they understand it. It's not enough. It's not enough to say, okay, anything that I can't do anything with you until you've signed this form. And do you understand that? There you go, sign this. If anybody is cognitively challenged or learning difficulties, they could literally come back and say, I did not understand what you were doing. And we get prosecuted because we didn't make sure that they were fully understanding what we mean by consent. I hope it's not breaking up for anybody else because I've got semi-decent Wi-Fi tonight. Privacy and confidentiality, obviously, protecting information about clients. That's pretty much what we do. And then when we're talking about this with the client, there's hard copy, soft copy. Obviously, hard copy kept in a locked drawer, in a client file, in a locked drawer, in a locked cabinet, in a locked room. Not everybody has a key. Only maybe senior management will have keys to the client file room. If it's soft copy, then it's on a client management system with a password. Everybody has a different password. Only certain people can have view certain information. Then that client management system is going to be on a password protected computer. Not everybody's going to be allowed on the computer. Even going down to a lot of company policy, not just in community services, your laptop is not allowed, or your computer screen is not allowed to face anywhere that's going to be client like traffic. So the main thoroughfare for clients into like debriefing rooms or client discussion rooms, every computer screen will be facing away from that, just so that nobody, whether it's a visitor, whether it's other clients, nobody will be accidentally able to see any other client's information. Working within the law, meeting the requirements of relevant legislation, whatever that is, because if we were working, if this was a warehousing diploma, warehousing and stock maintenance, one of the main issues might well be work health and safety and physical hazards. And that might be the main reason that we are taken to court and prosecuted with physical danger and physical hazards all the time. But with us, it's not that. It's privacy breaches, confidentiality breaches, clients that didn't understand what we were meant to be doing in the first place. It's getting consent, and they didn't realize that when they gave consent, then the form said that we were free to give their details, their information to other service users, not service users, service providers, the other agencies, and they didn't realize when a lot of agencies will ask for consent to each individual agency. So we've got consent for my agency, but then I need to get your details to pass it on to a psychiatrist or an AOD counsellor. So now I need to get consent again to share your information with them. So have I already got consent, or what does the actual document say? And every agency is going to be different. So we've got to know what our agency is saying. So cultural considerations, and just going back to the previous one, if somebody, I mentioned cognitively challenged, maybe somebody not cognitively challenged, they just don't understand my language, which means a different culture might not realize what the consent means. And that's my fault. If I've not, if I haven't got it in their language, I haven't explained it well enough, then to get consent, even though they've signed it, it's still going to come back on me and it's my fault. So we've got to respect diversity and we've got to make sure that we're accommodating for somebody else's culture. That could be language, culturally responsive practice. So it literally means that we change in the service slightly for a slightly different culture, whether that's any of the cultures that we might come into contact with. Asking open questions to help them talk rather than closed questions. Do you, have you, is this your, and whether they can just answer yes or no. It keeps the rapport low, and it stops us building a rapport with the client. So if we're asking open questions, it means that we're going to be able to build a stronger connection quickly and be guided by them as well. So looking at the main points, we've got privacy and confidentiality, we've got professional training, client-worker relationship. That rapport has got to be, if there's no client-worker relationship, then we haven't got a lot to work with. And then when we're advocating and we're contributing and helping them take autonomy for their life, helping them be advocates for their own life, it's going to help them take control a lot more. Yes, ethical research, because that's kind of what we're looking at. And the equity and access, meaning that literally it doesn't matter who comes in, it's going back to the no wrong door policy that the government brought in, that it doesn't matter whether my service provides for you. My service doesn't provide what you need, but that doesn't matter because I can refer you to this service. I don't do homelessness. I don't work in homeless care, but I know Tamara does, and I've got a really good referral, and I'm going to refer you to this place now, and I'm going to connect you with a meeting, and we're going to set you up so you know exactly who you're going to speak to and how that service works. So nobody should be excluded from the need that they are looking for. So commitment, managing stress workloads, meaning that when we've client after client after client after client and meeting after meeting and after meeting, you can be emotionally exhausted and emotionally overwhelmed very, very easily. But there's ways to manage that. Um, you don't often get told what those ways are easily. Um, oh, shoot. Thanks, Serena. Mm, yep, there we go. So, managing stress workloads, for instance, if you've got 8 hours in a day, you've got half an hour lunch break, to do 4 meetings in the morning that are back to back of an hour each means literally by the time you reach your lunch break, if it's 9 till 10 and then 10 till 11 and then 11 till 12 and 12 till 1, you're literally going to be late for every single meeting unless you've got yourself some room between to get a glass of water, get a snack, stretch your legs, whatever you need to do to go to the bathroom between each meeting, which is, or even write notes. GPs, I know most GPs do it really, really well, where they've got a 45 minute um, meeting time. And then you'll never have an hour with a GP. It'll be half an hour, 40 minutes, and then they're going to use the rest of the time to do what they need to do, whether it's write up notes or do the emergency things that they need to do. Um, and then passing that on to either a supervisor or clinical supervision with a very wise old social worker or a wise old psychologist that talks to you about all of the clients that you've been working with. And I saw on one slide the other day that we've got two types of debriefing. And first responders, Shane Marty's not here, but first responders would be advised, whether that's like paramedic type or police type or fiery type, that social debriefing is one of the best things for their mental health to try and stay mentally strong, resilient over successive traumatic incidents that they're going through. So social debriefing is really, really important. We in the community services we can do that wherever possible, but it doesn't take long before social debriefing is breaking the law and breaches privacy, breaches confidentiality, and we can't do that. So even with colleagues, like it's difficult even with colleagues often to talk about the client that we're working with that's really um, having an effect on us. So talking to a supervisor, like a line manager, supervisor, manager, or clinical supervision, which instead of social debriefing, it would be professional debriefing, is really, really valuable because then a line manager might be talking to us about, okay, so if you're going to work with this client and they're having a bit of a traumatic experience with some financial problems and relationship problems, what strategies are you going to be working on there? When we've got professional supervision, they're going to be saying, okay, so it's really difficult. You've got like 6 clients a day. How do you manage 6 clients a day? Is this too much for you? Do you really think this is going to be healthy? And how long can you manage 6 clients a day? And if it's 6 clients a day, which ones are the most intense? Would it be easier if you have 5 clients a day for a couple of days and then put this one intense client on this day to make it easier on you? Can we restructure it? Is there any way to do that? And even to the point that a clinical supervisor could even sometimes behind our back because we've given consent, they can go behind our back to our line manager and say, look, we need to do something to help Dwayne and restructure his week because it's not healthy for him, and he'll burn out, and he'll not survive in the job. So working between all that to manage the stress and the workload is that's got to be that's got to be one of our goals personally as we look to the future. And it ebbs and flows, and there's times in the year when it gets more intense and less intense. And sometimes it feels like the stress is the fact that there's hardly anybody coming in, and the stress is the fact that we need to like find some more people. And then 4 months later, the stress is the fact that I just cannot hear another trauma story of another family that's getting torn apart. It's I've had too many today already, and it's 10 o'clock in the morning. Um, so just to look at AOD strategies, um, that's a, I'm going to try and copy that in for you to put that in the chat because it's a good support. Um, yeah, no, I'm not because I can't copy it. Um, so yeah, I guess just take a screenshot or look at the PowerPoint when you get it. So looking at collaboration, to collaborate successfully in your professional practice, you'll need a range of skills for establishing and supporting collaborative relationships and processes. When in collaboration, in like a role play that I've just watched or the role play that you've got to do for any of these modules, the PRP, it's diplomacy works and trying to work like it's really good when you get a really good team in your agency, in your service that you think this is really good. We there used to be somebody a bit negative here. There used to be somebody a bit lazy here, but this team is great. And when you've got a really good team, and then you have to go and work with another agency that is at best like description is a bit of a nightmare to work with. It takes your skill, not theirs, to work with them and work with the client because you're working for the client in the end, and you're working with another team, another service that could be a bit of a nightmare. That could be a bit of a legend in their own heads that think they're great and they're going to get you to do all the work. But setting up boundaries and setting up an agreed like legal MOU. Yeah, memorandum of understanding, is it? I think it is. So that everybody knows who does what, who doesn't do what, which agency and service is going to be covering what, who's paying for the bills. Are we doing all the hard work here, and they are, and we're paying for it, and they've just got a couple of ideas. So, as well as diplomacy, like teamwork, working in a team that you never expected to be working in is all going to help. So communication skills is one of the important ones that learning how to say no and learning when to say yes is one of the important things that we can learn. As I said, agreement about goals, boundaries protect us and different approaches and ways of working so that in the end, we've got to build trust and respect so that the sustained relationship means that actually this working with these other services for this client, it wasn't that bad after all. And we managed to do a really, really good job. And maybe even working with these other services did cause friction, but in the middle of the friction, the client got a really good outcome and it was all worth it in the end. So it's difficult, but it can work. So we've got the two of the main communication styles. We've got assertive, being given what I need. This is what I need. This is what I'm expecting. I'm not being aggressive about it. I'm not demanding it. I'm just saying this is what I'm needing to get the job done. Use an open, confident posture, maintaining a calm, confident tone of voice, not apologetic, basically. Um, maintaining eye contact. A lot of people, a lot of people might be apologetic when being assertive or trying to be assertive, saying, "I'm sorry, but I really need the it to work like this." Starting off with, "I'm sorry, but this is what I want," is undermining what you're saying. Um, in any apology, "I'm sorry, but" it's not an apology. It goes both ways. So assertiveness skills, practicing with this huge pronoun. Is it a pronoun? Could be. Um, it's only one letter, but it's massive. Saying "I need this." Um, probably best getting this from the PowerPoint later. I think we can leave it there for time, maybe. Yeah, it will. So we'll come back in around 10 minutes, quarter past. It's probably best. Um, I'll do the usual things. So looking at unit of competency from the government, collaborate with professional practice. This unit describes the skills and knowledge required to establish, implement, and evaluate collaborative practice. So it's not just being thrown into it. It's not just that you have to take part in the collaborative practice, but you get to evaluate it as well, which is a lot similar to what I know not everybody did the role play yet, but it's similar to what you were talking about in the role play. So this unit applies to health and community service practitioners who may collaborate on the delivery of services to individual clients, groups of clients, communities, subpopulations, because the collaboration could be the client could be one person, it could be one family, it could be one whole community where lots of services are working together for that. Just thought I'd compare this with the other two modules that you've got to look at, which are 001 and 003. And I'll just change that to.
Hey, Dwayne, you're not sharing.
Right. Thank you. There we go. So to share the screen. So this is 002. That's what I was just on about, evaluating collaborative practices. And then the one before that, the one that you did the role play with, was develop and maintain the networks. So unit one is developing them. Unit two is more on the professional practice, how they work together. And then unit three is the reflection on it and even improving it. So you can see that's a vague stepping stone of the way they do, of the way it works. And comparing that with certificate 4, because you're not doing certificate 4, you're doing diploma, they don't do number 2. That's this module. They don't do number 2. They do number 1 for a few weeks. And then I think they do 2 weeks on number 3. So there's a massive chunk that they don't do, and you quickly do all of them, if you understand that. And if you need anything, then this is what we're doing now. quite a lot. So if there's any issues, you want to talk about a role play, you want to talk about a module, a unit, then jump on here. That's the link, and try and book something in. At the moment, it's like Monday and Tuesday. Monday morning, heaps of time, a bit on Tuesday. And obviously Discord as well. If you haven't signed up yet, it is working really, really well. You need your own account with your own password, and then you accept the invite. Apparently, if you type in Discord in Accelerate in the search, there's either a document or a link that you can open and get straight into it. Then it takes you to the rules of engagement, the terms and conditions. You click on one of the accept icons here, and then it lets you have all of the other channels. The thing I haven't mentioned before, because we haven't had it until recently, it was meant to be a roleplay resources there. I don't know where that's gone. Oh, there it is. Cheyenne, one of your mental health youth workers, no, not youth workers, mental health trainer. He's done a load of videos of how to do role plays. Like they are good. Partly because there's a lot of not unwritten rules, but it seems like we're not trying to catch people out and get as many wrong role plays as we possibly can. And we assume that you understand what we're talking about. And when people might get unsatisfactory on a role play, and it's the same reason for a few role plays, then we're not communicating the right thing. So we've done a few videos of how to get the best out of them. And that's like not reading from the script too strongly, rehearsing the script in your head, how to structure it, making sure that you're not setting somebody up for a fail if you're taking part in a role play, and trying to help somebody with their role play. So plenty of videos there. It is helpful to watch them. Just watch maybe one a week, and it'll help. And the learning guide, before we go on to the assessments, the learning guide, we've done quite a lot for this module. Starting at collaboration, working over ethics tonight up here. Communication is where we stopped. We've missed out copyright and individual property. It doesn't look like it's on here. Must be a small part that it didn't matter. And finally, we've finally changed the role play so that it's easier. This one anyway. So it's not an assessor-led one. So this is all the setup. We've taken this out, this horrible video that it's the two. Yeah, so these two videos are coming out. You don't need to do this with me. You just get another client, and it's turned into a normal role play where that's your scenario for Antoine. That's your scenario. You don't even need the video anymore. It's not helpful. And the tick sheets, the cheat sheet is there. During this role play, your assessor, this is all you need anyway. During this role play, your assessor will be looking to see you demonstrate the following: ability to establish and maintain relationships based on mutual respect and trust, ability to create shared understanding of the goals and the guidelines in which the goals need to be accomplished, maintain a high standard of personal engagement and professionalism, ability to share your professional expertise. And then the other one that was there, so Antoine's mother has passed away, so we're moving through Antoine's two-step case working. So Antoine's passed away. We're going to help him deal with grief. What are we going to help him with grief with? We can talk a bit about grief, but if we're not grief counselors or grief psychologist specific, then there's only so far we can go. Yes, we can talk about grief. We can talk about the stages of grief. We can even talk about dealing with anxiety and depression that grief might bring on. But then we're going to refer somebody to a grief counsellor. That's what we're going to do. And is there one more? Yes, Antoine is now back. So you got 3 bits. The first one was 15 minutes. Second one is 15 minutes. There's not much to pack into nearly 15 minutes, so just over 10 minutes. There's not a lot to pack into them. For 15-minute role play, I guess you probably could focus ability on sharing your professional expertise. That's going to be a big win for a big role play. So that's that one anyway. And then the presentations that we need, these are the things that we need to do in class that are focused on one of these key areas. Got to split you up and let you research and let you plan out how you're going to do this with that's the most important with the presentation, the collaborative plan prompts, because you've got a few of them for each presentation. There. And again, it's going to get assessed in the group, but you're doing it to, if there's, how many have we got? We've got still 7 in here. So you're going to, we'll split it in half, and half of them can do it. Half of you can do it to the other half. Next week, probably, if you're ready, or the week after. But then there's 2. You've got 2 presentations to do. Time limit. I think they were only short. No, I'm convinced they are only short. They're very, very short presentations. It's not like a 10-minute role play. We can have a look at it and we'll have a look at it later. So that's the assessments anyway. Yes, you'll need to divide up all the work. Everybody needs to present, but how much each one presents is up to you, and you divide it up into who's great at PowerPoint making and who's great at writing a script for the presentation and who's great at speaking and following the script and more comfortable at delivering all of what you've done, and who understands it all based on the research that you've all done. So it's a group presentation, but you don't have to split the work. You're not going to be able to split the work equally. It's just the way it is as a group thing. Yeah, we'll come back to it later. Oops. I just want to finish this off. So the other side of communication, when I've said the way I'm putting myself across with the I statements and the assertive communication style, the other side of that is the listening. When we're active listening, we are not just sat there trying not to get distracted. We are actively listening. We are these are the things that we look at in role plays. And sorry, I just got distracted there because I remember seeing a role play of somebody who's saying all the right words. He's doing a role play and he's saying all the right words, but he's literally there talking to the client, and it's so not what that is talking about. When we're talking about physical attending, and we're using our body language to lean towards the person. You can still do that even when you're on Zoom. You can lean towards a person, you can lean into the conversation, into the interaction, or you can look like you're just wishing it was dinner time. So obviously building on that, the use of open questions to try and get the person to talk. If you've got a role play that's you're trying to build a rapport with somebody with closed questions. How did it take long to get here this morning? Did you manage to speak to your family? Has your relationship been okay this week? Did you have any disagreements with your partner? All of these closed questions are going to make it even harder for a role play to seem like it's flowing. So if we've got open questions where we're talking about, tell me how hard has it been to stay off the alcohol for the past couple of days? Did you manage to? How was the barbecue? Rather than did you mess up at the barbecue? Was there any issue there? How was the barbecue? Did you? Was there any triggers there? Was there anything important that happened? So also acknowledging and reflecting, reflecting on what the client's saying, trying to feed back their information and summarize what they're saying. Then building on the active listening, we're going into negotiating, because the negotiation is not we're not trying to get them to do something that they don't want to do. We're trying to meet them halfway in they want to do this, which might be get a job, study again, reduce cigarettes from 40 to 20, only drink on a weekend, any of these things. And when we're negotiating with them, we're going to say, okay, well, that might be a bit difficult. So how about, or if you're finding it difficult, how about, can you see yourself only using 30 cigarettes a day or tomorrow for the rest of the week? Can you see yourself? Is there a way you can reduce to 35 even? And wait until after breakfast, or at every time that you smoke, could you reward yourself with an extra one after lunch, only after lunch? And then that's the only time you're allowed to smoke an extra one. And trying to strategize and negotiate about helping the person do what they already want to do, but they can't think of how. So the active listening and the bargaining. Can you bargain with yourself to only have a beer if you've had a good day? Like if you've had a bad day, maybe not have a beer, maybe go and see a friend, maybe go and see family, maybe go and see, maybe go to an AA meeting. But then if you're struggling to cut down on the alcohol, then only have it if you've had a good day, and you don't have it at home, you have it on the way home, and trying to negotiate and bargain and see what will work for the client really. So facilitating and communication in groups and teams is what these modules are all about, obviously. Um, positive win-win strategies. We want a win-win for the client. We want a win-win. If it's a win for a client, it could be a win for us, but we might have flogged and researched and studied and put in extra hours to make it a win for the client, which means it might not be a win for us. It's a win for the client, but we're exhausted with how much work we've done. So then it's not a win-win. Or if it's many agencies, hopefully all agencies, if it's 3 or 4 agencies and a client, hopefully that is a win-win for everyone. Because obviously the differences and the conflicts have to be sorted out. They have to be resolved. Got to develop the clear agreements. That's not usually you that would be doing that, unless you've been doing a lot of them historically. It's usually like senior management that would be talking between all of the other agencies, senior management, and setting up this is what we do, this is what we don't do, this is how you can help us. And then we go to the meetings and we evaluate the meetings, but all of the legal teams or the CEOs or the HR, not the HR, the administration department will be the people that set up the agreements, the legal agreements that we're all abiding by, which helps. So looking at group work, because quite often you might be working in groups, or you might be working with a group of clients with another service. You've got to understand how the group is going to be working together and how to ruin a group and how to make a group work. So when you've got a lot of different people, there's going to be a group culture, no matter what type of people are there. There's going to be some sort of ethos, even with it might be like a strongly Aussie culture. It could be based around shared beliefs. It could be shared around sport. It could be shared around a substance that they've all been using, or a substance that they all hate, or a culture, a certain community, demographic. So it's trying to focus on figuring out what is the group that we're going to be working with. And then eventually, obviously, reflecting on the work that we're going to be doing with them. We have to put that reflection in, which is why it's quite a key part on most of the assessments that we're working with in this professional practice modules. I think that's it. I think that's the best place to leave it. Yeah, it's just more about teamwork. So let's go to the first presentation to have a look at that. 3 of 4. So first assessment was the quiz or the written questions. Second assessment was the role play. Third assessment is this funding presentation, this one here. And then the fourth assessment is the second presentation. Does anybody not have Accelerate open? Can they not? Would they need to screenshot this? If you do, then just tell me